12 students. Really do hope that you're doing well, and I know I say that at each of my videos, but genuinely, extended lockdown and numbers are continuing to sort of be on the larger side of things every time they make those daily announcements. I'm sure that the VCAA are working on contingency plans. Firstly, when the GAT is going to be. Secondly, about each of your study designs and will there be any changes. Thirdly, about things like the examination. When is it going to take place? When will the results take place? They've got precedent here. Last year, we managed to get our Year 12s through. So I know while there are some stresses and anxieties there, one thing it is doing is it's taking some of those things away that could potentially be a bit of a barrier for you for a great study. So almost look at this as a time that you can dedicate whatever time is required to each of the classes that require it at that time. Now, next week, we've got 2 SACs taking place. So you need to hand in these 3 sessions. Firstly, the fartlek and flexibility session that Mr. Smith put together. Secondly, the plyometrics and circuit session that I put together for your previous lesson. And then in today's time where you're completing this resistance training session, you need to have answered the reflection questions on all 3 of those sessions, and you'll be submitting that to a learning task on Compass due in mid to late next week, and we will confirm the due date and time with both classes probably by the end of this week, no problem. But you've got open book, so you've got resources you can go through. You can grade accordingly to how we will grade accordingly to how much detail you're giving us in those responses. Please make sure that you're referring to things like work to rest ratios, energy systems, fitness components, making sure that you refer back to the physiological responses and data that were collected earlier, like the motivation, energy levels, etc., and any physiological data. I know some people have already emailed me talking about injuries, talking about weather, those sorts of things. That should become a part of your reflection. And if you understand how it all pieces itself together and how different training sessions will be better sessions than others based on this data, then that should come through in your responses, okay? Basically, what I'm going to do in this video is just talk you through how you set up and what each of these exercises are, and I'll try and get that done as quickly as possible, and then you can get into it, get your resistance session done, and then answer the reflection questions afterwards. Okay, so here we go. So over here, you need 2 dumbbells, 1 barbell, and some space. Okay, now, if you are lucky enough and fortunate enough that you have a bar that can have weight added onto it, fantastic. Feel free to use it for today's session. If you've got any sort of dumbbell, fantastic. Use that for today's session. It doesn't have to be a dumbbell. It could be a kettlebell, okay? Use that for today's session. You might just have some free weight plates that might have handles in them or something. Absolutely fine. Use that for today's session. But there are some people that will have no equipment at home. Paint containers. As I wrote in the lesson plan as well, milk jugs, just fill them with water, okay? Orange juice containers. You could easily go down to your local Coles, Woolworths, IGA, buy a 2-litre jug of milk. That will do for today. It's not ideal. We can't work exactly within repetition max sets that we were thinking about, but it is something. Now, the other thing that I've asked for is that barbell, and if you don't happen to have a barbell, then what you can use is just simply any sort of mop or broom, and then what you're going to do is you're going to be able to feed what you were using for your dumbbells onto it. Now, you can feed it at either end, which means that you can put 1 paint tin at either end, and therefore you've got your own makeshift barbell, or you can just feed one heavy one in the middle, depending on what you've got access to. We'll work the same for the milk jugs, containers, etc. Which means that we have the equipment to be able to do barbell and dumbbell exercises in the house, okay? So you're going to fill in all of the stuff that should be very familiar to you there, and then you're going to jump into your warm-up. If you've got a stationary bike, treadmill, elliptical, great. If you don't, star jumps on the spot, going and running outside, that's all just the same. So get the blood flowing, okay? Then you're going to be doing some flexibility and training. So the half squat, I'll just show you briefly. So the half squat is not all the way down. It is literally just a half squat and back up. Half squat and back up. If the body's feeling good, you could go a little bit deeper each time, okay? The side lunge, no problem. It's feet a little bit wider and you're just leaning all the weight onto one side, leaning all the weight onto the other side. You should feel a tight pull throughout that groin and the adductor muscles, okay? Push up with rotation. So the way that this one works, pretty simple and straightforward. Just moving some of this equipment out of the way for you. You're going to go down into a push-up position, you're going to come up, and then you're going to open your body up and point towards the ceiling. Go down into a push-up position, come up, and open the body up onto the other side. You should feel the stretch coming through the chest there, but it really goes all the way through to the back as you open that up in the abdominals. Arm swings, we've done our forward arm swings, our back arm swings in previous sessions, okay? And then those standing side twists that we've worked on before. Now, you should be good to go at this point, okay? Feel your body out. If there's any part of your body that's sore from the sessions the other day, it could be the legs from the plyometrics and leaping the bounding. You may need to do some more stretches. If the blood's flowing and you're feeling warm, you may add a couple of static stretches in here, but just be really careful. It would be better to do something like a little bit of light skipping to get that area warm so no injuries take place, or a little bit of a calf pull stretch is fine as well. We're going to get into the actual resistance session now and how you complete it, but don't forget about your cool down afterwards. And just a jog or a fast walk should be able to remove any built up lactic acid. About 5 minutes. Keep the EPOC going for nice and high area. Okay, so here's the session, all right? Now, I'll go through each of these exercises very quickly for you. The bent over row, I'm wanting you to use the dumbbell, okay? Which means that you're using the paint containers or your own dumbbells if you have it. Now, a bent over row, one in each hand, you're bending at the hips, but you're not bending the back over. You're keeping the back straight. You're going to let the dumbbells hang down low, and then you're going to pull them up until your chest height. You're going to let them go down low and pull them up to chest height. Now, what's really important here is that you feel the squeeze in the middle of your back. You actually want to pretend like there's an apple or an orange sitting in the middle of the back, and as you pull those dumbbells up, you're actually trying to squeeze your top back muscles, your lats together to try and pop that orange or that apple. So it is a squeeze of the back and back down. Take note that you're doing this action slow and controlled. Don't forget to breathe. You are going to do 8 repetitions, and then you're going to rest, and you're going to do that 3 times over for 3 sets. After that, we're doing a weighted squat, okay? Now, with the weighted squat, I'm asking you to use the barbell. So, use the mop, or if you have the barbell, use the barbell. Now, there's a few ways that you can do this. Some people can hold this in what we call a front rack, which means that you're holding the bar across the front of your chest. That can be painful for some people, so a back rack might be a little bit more comfortable, okay? If you end up having too much weight on there, it can be very difficult to get this bar to this position. But either way, whether it's a front rack or a back rack, we are going down into a weighted squat. So now instead of that half squat from earlier, we're actually going all the way down and all the way back up. You want your hips to end up in alignment with your knees and back up, but you do not want to hunch your back. You want to keep your back as straight as possible as you complete those back squats. Now, once again, we are completing 10 of those, but we're only doing it twice. So 10 reps, 2 sets, okay? Slow controlled movements, 2-minute rest afterwards. We're going into shoulder press with the dumbbells. Now, a shoulder press can be done seated or standing. I'm going to do it kneeling, or just kneeling's here is fine, but you can do it seated if you would prefer. The dumbbells end up coming up onto your shoulders, and you want your elbows up, almost at 90 degrees. You are going to press the dumbbells up to the sky and slowly lower them back down to that same position. That is our shoulder press. It should be working on a little bit of biceps as well as the same time as mainly focusing on the deltoid area there. So that's going to be 6 repetitions and 3 sets to complete of that one with the 2-minute rest. The next one is a floor press. A lot of us have done a bench press before, that's fine, but we don't have a bench at home and you can't really substitute in a chair because of the way it works. So I've changed this to floor press. So all this is lying flat on the floor and completing a bench press style of action. I would like you to use the barbell for this one or the mop, which has the containers on either side of it, okay? And you're simply performing that pressing or that pushing motion, all right? It's really hard for me to show you with my limited space here and getting the camera to lie sideways, but essentially you are lying flat onto the ground, your entire body lying on your back, your hands will be holding the bar at your chest height, and then you are going to be pressing it up towards the ceiling and back down because I would be lying flat onto the ground. So for that one, we're completing 12 of them, having a rest and doing it a second time, so 12 reps at 2 sets. We're then completing the classic bicep curl. Now, it doesn't bother me whether you do one at a time and you just complete the right and then you complete the left, or you do them both at the same time. What's really important is that you tuck the elbow in between the ribs and the hip area here, and you don't let your arms swing forward. You want to keep that isolated so that it is just a bicep curl action. Okay, so keep the elbow tucked in there to make sure that you're not using too much shoulder muscle. So use the dumbbells for that, or you can use your paint tins or your orange juice or whatever it might be. Bucket full of water. Mr. Smith's idea was a great idea. The dumbbell tricep extension. Okay, just one at a time for this one. Take that dumbbell and place it along the length of your spine like this, behind your head, and then you're simply going to straighten your arm up using the tricep to complete that action, as you can see there. That's going to be quite a difficult one, so you might want to take some water out of the bucket, or you want to use maybe a 1 litre milk container instead of a 2 for that one. Or if you do have adjustable dumbbells or use different weight plates, bring it right down. You'll definitely be able to lift more using your bicep than your tricep, okay? So we're doing 10 of those and 2 sets worth. And the final one is just simply an abdominal crunch. So we are lying on the ground for the abdominal crunch. Let's see if I can just move a little bit of equipment and show you this. So we're lying on the ground for our abdominal crunch. Okay, we've got our knees bent up towards the ceiling with our feet planted flat along the ground. You're going to place your hands on your thighs and lie down. And as you sit up, the straight arms slide until you end up getting your fingers to go above your kneecap area. So we're going up and back down, up and back down. Now with these abdominal crunches, you're actually not using any resistance other than the gravity pulling your upper body back down to the ground. So there's no need for any dumbbells or barbells or anything like that. So we're going to push it to 12 repetitions, have a rest, and we're going to complete that 3 times. Now that makes up the bulk of the conditioning part of this session. It is going to take a little bit of time, but completing each of the reps is not the long time. It is making sure that you've got adequate rest. If the weights that you are using, because you're using a paint tin or an orange juice container, are not overly heavy, you are allowed to cut your rest time down for the purposes of today's session. I simply put the adequate rest time in so that you can see the proper planning of this session. Okay? Don't forget, once you finish completing it, to go and complete those reflection questions and have it ready to be uploaded to the best of your capabilities in writing mid to late next week. I'll see you soon.